I call to order the Rosemont Planning Commission meeting for Tuesday, January 27th. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any additions to tonight's agenda?
There are no additions, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is there any input from the audience on items that are not on tonight's agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll move forward to the consent agenda. Our consent agenda this evening includes the minutes from the November 25th, 2025 meeting. Is there any questions, or are there any questions or comments on the consent agenda? Okay, seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Kenninger, seconded by Commissioner Biedner. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The consent agenda passes. We will move forward to our public hearing section this evening. We have two public hearings. The first one is a request by Brian VERKINDEREN, I apologize if I said that wrong, for variances to allow for an accessory structure to exceed the maximum allowable aggregate area for detached accessory structures and to allow for the installation of a second driveway and curb cut on the property. I will turn it over to Julia.
All right, so a little bit of the project summary in front of the commission today. So the Planning Commission, acting as the Board of Appeals and Adjustment, is being asked to consider a request by the property for a variance to allow for an accessory structure to exceed the maximum aggregate detached accessory structure area allowed within the rural residential zoning district, and as well as a variance to allow for a second curb cut to be installed from 12475 Danbury Way to the Danbury Way right-of-way. So a little overview of the site location. So you can see the parcel is outlined in red. So it is located north of McAndrews Road, east of the Valleywood Golf Course, which is located within Apple Valley, and then west of Danbury Way. The site is 2.54 acres in size, and like I had stated previously, this property is zoned RR, rural residential, and the land use designation for that site is also rural residential as well. This property is part of the Mickelson's first edition plat, which was platted in 1979. There is currently an existing single-family home located on the southern portion of the property. I'll zoom in on it further on in the presentation, but that existing single-family parcel is located just north of McAndrews Road. I do also want to point out that, like I stated, that house is on the southern portion of the parcel. So a little overview. Here's the property survey in front of you. So the property owner did approach the city asking for what they would need to do to construct a new single-family home on this existing parcel. Since the existing home on the property is in good condition, you can see on this property survey that existing home is located on that southern portion just north of McAndrews Road. The property owner was hoping to retain that existing home and convert it to an accessory structure after the construction of the home on site was completed. So you can see the proposed home on this site would be on the most northern portion of the area. The proposed accessory structure would be used as a storage facility, workshop, and temporary office. The existing kitchen and bathrooms within the existing structure would still be utilized, but on a smaller scale, as it would not be a second dwelling on the home. That existing structure is 2,194 square feet in size, which the maximum accessory structure area allowed within the rural residential zoning district is 1,200 square feet. So that would obviously exceed that 1,200 square feet, so that is the need for the variance with that. Would also want to point out that the property could not be further subdivided, as the minimum lot area for a parcel within the rural residential zoning district for platted lots is 2.5 acres. So that is a reason why that this would not be able to be subdivided further to accommodate another dwelling on the property. So kind of wanted to show a couple aerial images. You can see this is kind of a zoomed in photo of the existing parcel. You can see the existing structure on the southern portion of the property, and as well as on the right-hand side, you can see the different contours on site. Did want to also point out that blue area on this right-hand side are easement areas. So there is a easement area due to wetlands within the central area of the property that does kind of limit where a new existing or a new proposed home could go. So that is why the property owner was proposing a new single-family home on the northern portion, because there are restrictions with the wetland and easement area within the middle portion of the property, and as obviously the existing structure is located in the southern portion of the site as well. Do also want to point out that the city does permit for internal or attached accessory dwelling units, but detached accessory dwelling units are not allowed. So this accessory structure, when it would be converted to, would not be allowed for short-term or long-term rentals, as that's against our zoning code, and we do have different requirements and standards in place that would not be allowed, again, per our zoning code. Kind of just wanted to show a little bit of a different aerial. So on this picture on the right-hand side, you're looking towards McAndrews, looking at the existing home on the property, and then kind of doing kind of panoramic images around Danbury Way as well. I do also want to point out that a second variance is being requested tonight by the property owner. So obviously you can see in these images that there is an existing curb cut and driveway that gives access to the existing home on the property. But due to the location of the proposed single-family home on the northern portion of the property, a second curb cut and a second driveway is required. So within our zoning code, the rural residential zoning district does allow for horseshoe or loop driveways with no more than 2 curb cuts, but due to the restrictions of the wetland and the easement area in the central portion of the property, obviously there are restrictions to doing that horseshoe/loop driveway, so that secondary access point is needed to access that second home on the site. So that is why that variance request is being requested as well. So also there are 5 criteria for the Board of Appeals and adjustments to review when considering a variance request. While weighing a variance request against these criteria, there are also 2 key issues to consider as well. The first is whether the applicant has reasonable use of their property without the variance, and the second being whether the project can be redesigned to eliminate or reduce the need of a variance. So there were 5 findings that staff did provide findings for, which are in front of you. I'll kind of go over them. So that first finding is the variance request is in harmony with the purposes and intent of the ordinance. So staff finds that the request is consistent and in harmony with the purpose and intent of the zoning ordinance. The rural residential zoning district is intended to provide a large lot rural residential lifestyle that is separate from and not in conflict with commercial agricultural activities. The zoning ordinance anticipates and accommodates the lifestyles by permitting larger accessory structures on rural residential lots due to their increased minimum lot size requirements. In addition, the ordinance allows for multiple driveways and curb cuts within the rural residential district to serve the functional needs of large lot residential properties. Findings number 2, the variance is consistent with the comprehensive plan. The site is designated for rural residential, and the variance is consistent with that designation. 3, the property owner proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner. Staff finds that given the information received from the applicant, the property owner does propose to use the property in a reasonable manner. And then 4, there are unique circumstances to the property which are not created by the landowner. Staff did find that there are existing unique circumstances. The site cannot be further subdivided to accommodate an additional dwelling due to the minimum lot size requirements. Additionally, the presence of wetlands in the topography does limit feasible locations for new construction. And then also the existing home on site is in good condition and can be repurposed as an accessory structure, which further contributes to the unique circumstances on the property. And then the last one, granting the variance does not alter the essential character of the locality. Granting the variance would not alter that character of the locality. The subject parcel is consistent with other rural large lot properties located in the northwest portion of the city. Properties zoned in the rural residential district are permitted larger accessory structures than other zoning classifications due to their greater minimum lot size requirement. And then additionally, single unit lots of record within the rural residential zoning district may include a horseshoe or loop driveway with up to 2 curb cuts. Similar driveway configurations with multiple curb cuts are commonly found within this zoning district throughout the city. So the recommendation in front of the Board of Appeals and Adjustments is a motion to adopt a resolution approving variances from sections 11.6.7 and then 11.7.3 to allow a 2,194 square foot accessory structure exceeding the 1,200 square foot maximum aggregate area for detached accessory structure in the rural residential zoning district, and to allow for the installation of a second driveway and curb cut on the property at 12475 Danbury Way. I did also want to make a note that staff did receive a public comment, which was provided to the commission before this meeting. I do know that the property owner is in the audience, and as well as his contractor, so if you have additional questions that they might be able to answer better, they are here. But I am here to answer any other questions that the commission may have as well.
Thank you, Julia. I've got just a couple to start with, just to confirm, so that if the current property owner was to sell this property, that building could still be there, but would not be able to be marketed or anything as an additional residence or anything like that. It would just purely be an accessory building with no abilities for that to be used as a residence.
Correct, yep. So within our zoning code, within our accessory uses, it does outright say accessory ADUs, so accessory dwelling units, and it does specifically say only internal or attached accessory dwelling units are allowed and that detached are not. So since detached accessory units are not allowed, they would not be able to be permitted for short-term, long-term, or anything to that nature.
Okay. The property limitations with the wetland and such make it so that they couldn't build and connect this very easily. Again, why they're looking at the north, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, you can I kind of pulled up the property survey again. You can see that there are limitations with the topography as well on the northern portion. You can kind of see the contours are a bit steep, but that main area is a wetland with the drainage to the west with the golf course, and then obviously you have that ponding to the east, and then there is that easement that bisects the property as well. So there are limitations with where septic can go, a different single-family home could go, so there are limitations that the property do present.
Okay. And then the new driveway that's being proposed is just a single curb cut, single driveway in, and no horseshoe for the new driveway.
Correct, yeah. It's just more of a formality, as within our code, it outright states that within the rural residential, a horseshoe or a loop driveway, no more than 2 curb cuts, could be on a rural residential property, so it's more of a formality with the land. It cannot physically be a looped or a horseshoe because of the limitations of the wetland, so.
Right. Okay. Thank you. There are other questions from the commission?
I had one. I think you answered it as far as the subdivide. That was kind of my first question. But because of the minimum, is it 2.5 acre?
2.5, yep.
Otherwise, that's the typical process, would be to subdivide if it was not necessarily under this rural.
Depending on what the property was zoned or the size of it, that could have been an option to potentially subdivide to allow for a second home to be, or, another home to be on that property.
If it wasn't the minimum 2.5.
Yeah, if the property was larger in size, correct.
I have a question on the 5 conditions, like condition 4. Can you go to that one? So the unique circumstances, I guess my question is on the couple of them. So I get the wetlands one is unique, but if somebody were just to say, hey, my lot size is not big enough, does that really qualify as a unique circumstance to build like an additional structure? And then also, if the existing home could be repurposed, if it's in good condition, I guess, to me, that doesn't necessarily qualify as a unique circumstance. If I have a good condition house, so if I wanted to build an extra house on my land, is that just a unique condition?
Well, staff interpreted the way the house is in good condition right now, so it's the fact that they would have to tear it down, and then you're not utilizing a perfectly good structure that's existing on the property. At least that's what staff understood from what the applicant was presenting. Also, there's larger lots that are larger rural residential lots that could accommodate, that could be further subdivided. So that was also a unique circumstance because there are larger platted lots within the city that are rural residential that could be further subdivided. And then also just the circumstances with the easement and also the wetland was probably the largest unique circumstance on the property because there's no other area to put proposed home.
Like, were they
So-
able to expand the existing structure, or were the wetlands preventing that?
There are limitations with where the existing septic site is also on the site, so that does limit to where they can expand on the property. Also, you can kind of see, these are more estimates on the property lines, but they are somewhat close to the existing property lines, and rural residential zoning district does have larger setbacks compared to other residential zoning districts as well. So they are limited more this close to the southern property line than to the north.
Yeah, so I guess for me, like the unique circumstances, like I can understand the topography part of it, but I just feel like the other two items, it's like, well, anybody can come then at this point. If we say, well, that's a unique circumstance, then like anyone can basically come to us at that and say, well, it's my lot's not big enough, or, you know, my existing structure is good, but I want something else.
And I'm sure the applicant could also speak to a little more on why they're wanting this project and why they're looking more into building a new single-family home on the northern side, or northern side of the site compared to expanding on the existing home, so.
Yeah, Commissioner Biedner and Madam Chair, I would say that in the initial conversations that I had with the applicant, the fact that the home is now so close to McAndrews is a contributing factor, and certainly I would defer to the applicant on that. But when the home was originally built, it was not, McAndrews was not nearly as busy of a road as it is. Certainly when they purchased the house, it was relatively similar to where it is now, but it is a unique lot in that it backs up to a golf course, and there are not a lot of buildable, undeveloped parcels in that part of the city. So it is unique in that respect as well.
We'll open the public hearing and have you speak. Thank you.
My questions were the same as Commissioner Biedner. I clearly see the uniqueness of the property with respect to the driveway question. With respect to the building, the second building site on the property, I'm less convinced.
This might be a question for the applicant, but so the original house that's there now is, you said 2194 square foot. Is the new dwelling going to be similar in size, or?
I do believe, I did write that down. The new home would be a little over 3,000 square feet in size.
That's on the, I think, 3,200 or
Yep.
something on the screen.
Yeah,
And that's the footprint,
yeah,
correct?
the footprint, correct.
So square footage-wise would be bigger, most likely.
Correct.
Than that. Any other questions before we open the public hearing? Okay, thanks,
Thank you.
Julia. This item is a public hearing item, so at this time, we will open the public hearing. Anyone in the audience that would like to speak may do so at this time, coming to the podium, stating your name and address for the record. And we would invite you as the applicant to come forward during this time. Thank you.
All right. So my name is Brian VERKINDEREN, and I'm the resident of 12475 Danbury Way. So I think just to address a couple of the concerns, I know you kind of talk about the house and what it's like, right? So, you know, Anthony brought up a great point about it was built in 1978, and McAndrews was actually probably pretty quiet back then. Right now, every time a truck or a house or a car drives by, you can hear basically the house rattling for the most part. So now that doesn't excuse it. I purchased it in 2000, so I kind of knew that was the case then. The second thing is that house is, you know, that we say it's good shape. It's not, it doesn't have the ability to expand or to build on because the whole thing is falling off the hill basically. So it's good enough to have as an auxiliary building, not good enough to have as a house. So that's basically my reasoning for wanting to build something nice, is to get off the road, have a nice brand-new place and not have a house that's falling. You can drop a golf ball on one side of the house and it'll roll all the way down to the other side. So it's not in great shape, but it'll be great use for me as like a workshop and an office and stuff like that. So.
And so just to expand a
Yeah.
little bit on what you're planning to do with it, it sounds like workshop, storage,
Yeah.
office.
Workshop, office, storage. I mean, I have golf carts, bobcats, all kinds of stuff. So it will be filled up very, very fast. I have 4 kids, 2 dogs. So this will be my home office basically every single day. And, just I do tons of carpentry and woodworking stuff. So it'll just be perfectly used for me. So, yeah. No intentions. I know there's a lot of things about renting it and that. I have absolutely zero intentions of that. The purpose was keep it as is, right? Just because it's there, why tear it apart and do a bunch of things? We can get rid of the bedrooms. I know that were talked about, right, and stuff like that, which Anthony and I talked about, which is totally fine. But yeah, just really have it as an auxiliary building, so.
Other questions for the applicant?
I think you maybe answered one of my questions. That was going to be kind of the space usage and stuff, and getting rid of some of the bedrooms and getting any
Yep.
of those habitable spaces. Make sure that it's very clear that it's not.
Absolutely.
It couldn't be used for a residence
Yep.
or any other dwelling.
Yep, and that's always been what we've talked about from day one, is just making sure that it's not a place for that, right? Because, if I sell it, or who knows what happens in the future, right? We don't want renters coming in, or the ability of other people to rent it or anything like that, so.
And then just a question for more staff, like, you said that there's like a rental program that has to be approved in order to rent out, and then does that include Airbnb as well?
Correct. Anything that's being used for shorter, long-term rentals would have to go through the rental licensing program. Benefit of Airbnb is it's public, it's posted publicly. Short-term rentals and longer-term rentals are something that we usually find out from neighbors if they're a problem, people coming and going. But the key is that the city does have an enforcement mechanism for something like that if it does come to our attention that it's being used in a way that's outside the boundaries of the code.
Any other questions for the applicant? Anything else you want to share?
No, I think
Okay.
that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak on this item?
Good evening. My name is Mike Peterson. I live on the property just north of Brian. And I just want to say that Brian's a great neighbor. He's got a great wife, great kids. Love having him as my neighbor. I'm a little upset that I have to come in here and now have a problem with my neighbors. Now I'm going to be fighting with him the rest of my life. Not happy about it. People have tried to build a house on this lot 20 years ago. That was the last neighbor. I don't know what the neighbor before that is. My third neighbor. The problem I have with the house sitting the way it is, the old house, if you take the septic out, it can't be used as a rental property. Now, Brian's not going to use it as a rental property, but he might move. Things change all the time. I don't know why he would move, but he could possibly move. And now the next people that come in here are grandfathered in with another house to rent out. I don't want to have rental houses on my street. So I don't know what has to be done here. I don't want to pop his dream about having a home office and a whole separate building and run a business. That's not what I'm here for. But I have to protect what's in the future of what's going on. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak on this item this evening?
I'm Josh Risberg at 12375 Danbury Way. We bought my wife's childhood house from 1986. I understand why Brian's wanting to build a house. The road's very busy on McAndrews. We've had deaths out there. We have people speeding all the time. Now it's down to 1 lane. So I get his reason for moving down there. For me, I just want to understand some of it more on the process of the accessory building. So I do understand that there's a curb cut going in there, but is there an additional curb cut going in for the U? Or is it just the curb cut's moving from where it is now, because there is a curb cut down there.
Sure, so if you want to ask your questions and state, then when we close the public hearing, we go back and we respond to the comments. So
Sure.
you can go ahead and just
Okay.
list them, and I keep track of them, and we go back through and
Yep.
answer them.
Great. And then, so my other thing is, my biggest thing is I want to make sure for the ADU that it can't be turned into an ADU. I'm not worried about Brian renting stuff down there, but it is the future of people renting down there on an ADU. I don't know what your projection is in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years when it comes to the planning and zoning and your density levels. But if you guys start to change that, that's what's going to change on that property. So, and it will allow for things to happen after Brian sells, if he decides to sell. The square footage of the actual house currently right now, it was mentioned 2,000 square feet. Does that include the garage that's there? Is that the footprint of the garage and the house? Is that the footprint of just the house at the 2,000 square feet? I'd like to know if the density levels are gonna change in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And then in the future, if you decide to sell and let's say people are renting there and they're not supposed to, what are those consequences? How do you guys handle those and the enforcements of that? And then also, is there 2 wells gonna be on the property and 2 septics, or 1 septic and 2 wells? And that's it for my questions.
Okay, Josh, before you go, I just want to make sure, you mentioned you were interested if density levels were going to change. Do you mean 1 house per 2.5 acre?
Yeah,
Do you mean the
yep.
rural residential density requirements?
Correct. yeah,
Okay,
House per acre, yep.
okay. Right. Sounds good. We will, at the close of our public hearing, we will go back through and have staff answer questions.
thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who'd like to speak on this item this evening? Okay. Seeing none, I will make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Kenninger, seconded by Commissioner Reed to close the public hearing. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Public hearing is now closed. Okay, Julia, let's start with the first one that was brought up, actually by both residences that have concerns about rental houses. So, I know the accessory dwelling unit isn't allowed, but if you can speak to a little bit about what we have to prevent that, and what the recourse is.
Yeah, so this city did just recently, back in 2024, update our zoning code. And previously, before our updated zoning code, we did not outright speak on accessory dwelling units, but we did update it in 2024 to show the requirements and standards for accessory dwelling units, which is just internal or attached. We have 4 standards with that. And so obviously with that, it's internal or attached are allowed. Detached is not allowed. I know that we had spoken when with that zoning code update about the potential of detached accessory structures. It did not seem like an appetite that the city council or the planning commission wanted, so we did keep that internal or attached, and I do not see that changing as of now, since we recently just updated our zoning code. So, and also, with this being zoned rural residential and with the land use being rural residential, which our 2040 comprehensive plan shows this area is staying rural residential, the density will not change in this area as we see for the 2040 and beyond. The density on that will not change. 2 dwelling units are not allowed on that property, so a second dwelling on there would not be allowed. We do have, again, in place with our zoning code, we do have standards and requirements outright that show that detached accessory dwelling units are not allowed. So,
What about the consequences if it was to get rented out?
we do.
What is that
We do
process?
have
Madam Chair, I can answer that one. So
Thank you.
there would be a series of, through our code enforcement process, we do have a fairly new administrative citation process, which allows the city to essentially fine violators of the city code in a progressive manner, but also then it could pursue additional civil penalties as well.
So it would be something enforceable by the city?
Correct.
Yeah.
Through process. Obviously, if residents notice that and called the city and reported, then the city can enforce it. One question, before I jump back to these questions, I want to stay on this rental house piece and not being turned into an ADU. Is there something we can do in the variance language that if at some point in the future, let's say that the zoning code should change and we decide we want to allow detached accessory dwelling units in certain areas, that this one wouldn't be automatically grandfathered in, that their variance would, the variance was given in the preclusion that it's not allowed, and if some future homeowner of this property wants to have that, it would have to come back in and be reviewed?
Madam Chair, I guess the first thought I'd have on that is that the applicant is not seeking a variance to use or not use it as an ADU. They're seeking a variance based on the size of that structure. So if that structure was reduced in size, it could be in compliance with the code as an accessory structure. Understanding some of the questions and the concerns are about, because it currently is a house, that there's a likelihood that it could continue to be used as a residence, which then, and I know the applicant states that's not their intention, which we certainly appreciate, but staff's role and to provide guidance to this body is to also anticipate hypothetical situations and how those could be mitigated either now or in the future. So from the enforcement aspect, which I think we covered, but also if the code were to change to add ADUs in there, the variance isn't speaking to that, it's only speaking to the size of that
The
structure.
size of the structure. So even absent of the variance, if he reduced that structure down to 1,200 square feet, it would be allowed. He could build a new house.
Correct.
Okay.
But that accessory structure still couldn't be rented out.
Right.
Correct.
Today, not today.
Not to, as
Not
the
today.
rules stay, as the rules stand
state
currently,
today.
like you say, and through the 2040 comprehensive plan, there's no intention. This isn't like some of the other parts of town where we have it foreseen that it's going to change from agricultural to more densely developed areas.
Right, and I agree, I don't foresee us changing the detached accessory dwelling unit zoning either, but of course, we don't know what's gonna happen 20, 30 years down the road with that, so, okay.
Ask a question on like the size, like the 2194, do you have a picture of that building?
The existing house?
Yeah, the existing one.
It's a couple
So did
different
that
angles.
include, does that have a garage as part of it, and is the garage actually part of the square footage?
Yeah, you can see on the breakdown on that, on the survey in front of you, the existing house area, driveway. So the existing house area is incorporating the attached garage.
Okay, so
Square footage.
2194 includes the garage square footage.
Correct. The square foot, the base of it, yes, correct.
Okay.
Madam Chair, Commissioner
Yes.
Buettner, I would also suggest that the applicant and/or their representative could answer that too for the Planning Commission.
Okay,
I don't want staff's assumption to be,
sure.
And Julie, to some degree here, we're almost making a decision whether we want to tear this down or not, or make it smaller, right? I mean, if he could build this house, the new house there, the only real issue is the size, really, of the existing house, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if it were 1,200 square feet, it wouldn't be a problem. And if it's 1,200 square feet, he could rent it out if he wanted to. But
No, because
Not
it's,
legally.
no,
No, because it's
detached.
detached,
So he could
because it's
not-
detached.
He could not rent it out.
Yeah, I meant to say.
But it could be existing
not-
if
he
it
could
was
rent-
1,200 or
But it could
below.
stay, we would
Yeah.
never see it,
Right,
because
right.
if it was
It'd be the
1,200
same-
square
it'd be
feet, we
the-
wouldn't see it.
It'd be the same issue, right? It's like there's that risk, but he's not allowed to. Okay.
Madam Chair and Commissioner Reed, larger accessory structures that are, that appear to be more than just simply a garage or a shed are not entirely unique in this area. Madam Chair may recall a while ago at the end of Danbury Way, there's a very large house that had a very large accessory structure, and it was permitted because you can have up to 50% of your footprint. You can exceed the 1,200 square feet so long as it's not more than 50% of the principal structure's footprint. And this is a 13,000 square foot house at the end of Danbury Way. Well, a variance was granted because they changed the property lines and shifted the ownership of that accessory structure to a smaller home adjacent to the very large one that was owned by a family member. And so when they sold the big one, the child or whoever it was said, hey, we want to get this garage. It's a substantial garage. It's 2 floors. So having an accessory structure that is more than just a shed or a garage is not unique to this area. And I would add that garages, especially in areas of the city that are higher end or higher value, oftentimes do have bathrooms or kitchenette areas or things like that. So the big thing that staff focused on was the fact that it is larger than the 1,200 square feet, but someone could build a 1,200 square foot accessory structure and outfit it pretty substantially too. But as the applicant said, their goal, and in our initial conversations, were that it can't really be a livable structure in what one would think of as a home. But it boils down to the size of it more than anything.
More than anything, it's the size. Okay. Julia, we had a couple other questions, and they might be, so we covered the density levels we have no plans or forecast through our 2040 comprehensive plan to change any density levels. Of course, that is what it is today, but one never knows. Then covered the rental homes. If you can talk a little bit, there was the question about the curb cut.
Yeah, so obviously there's the existing curb cut and driveway on the southern portion of the property to access the existing property.
Yeah.
So they're just requesting a second access point to the new home. So they want to continue with that main access point to the accessory structure to still have access to that accessory structure. It's just one curb cut and one singular driveway to the new proposed home on the northern portion of the site.
So in this zoning district, you're allowed to have 2 curb cuts, typically with a horseshoe or loop driveway.
Yep.
They're going to have 2 curb cuts. They just aren't going to have the horseshoe driveway because of the
Because of the
location.
limitations within the center of the
Right,
property.
because of
correct.
the,
Yep, so
right.
the rural residential zoning district does allow for single parcels of record to have either a looped or horseshoe driveway with no more than 2 curb cuts. So this would be at that 2 curb cut, it's just due to the nature of the property, it would not be able to be connected to make either a horseshoe or a loop driveway.
if they were closer or you didn't have the limitations of the land, you could have them connected.
Correct.
Okay. Let me see, I don't know if you know the answers of this, but there was a question of the current square footage of the existing property, which I think we answered. We believe that includes the garage, the 2194, and I see the applicant shaking his head yes. And then the question on the 2 wells and 2 septics, or what that septic and well situation is going to be.
So that will need to be looked at further after a wetland delineation will be done in the spring. That has to be done. The applicant and the contractor are aware of that before any building permits are approved or anything further. That has to be accomplished because there are some things that need to be looked at. So there are no plans to move the current septic site area. They plan on redesigning the existing septic site to accommodate both the existing structure and the proposed structure, but a new drain field will most likely need to be installed, new tanks, also utilizing existing tanks. So there's a lot of different elements that still need to be further looked at after the wetland delineation on site is completed.
Okay. Thank you. And then Josh had asked something about the process of accessory buildings, and I'm not sure that I captured your question there perfectly. Did you have another question on the process for accessory buildings? No?
I think that was the enforcement process.
Okay.
Which we covered, yep.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think we covered all of the questions that I wrote down. Are there any other questions or comments from the commission?
I had to say, I understand the going concern on renting that property out. I think seems to be low risk. You seem like you're good neighbors. There's a process for handling that if it does seem like that's happening. So I'm in favor of supporting this.
I would agree. I am also in favor of supporting it. I feel like really what we're debating is this, if he has to tear down the current house, or change the square footage of it to be smaller, then it would be allowed to be there. And I think that if it's a house that can be used, albeit, 40-ish years old, but can be put to good use and used on the property, I don't see any reason to have to cut it in half or tear stuff down. And I do feel that we have a good process with the city for preventing anything of rental. And so I also am in favor of that.
I'm also in favor of the project. It looks like a really nice project. My only, I guess, comment is being on the commission for a few years, we are setting a precedence here because we are making, it looks like at least 3 variances as far as the subdivision of the lot, the attached building, detached building, the driveway. So I know each individual thing is looked at as far as what it goes along with, but that's my only, I guess, hesitation is for the next person that comes in, they're gonna, well, you made this variance for this person. So that's where I came from, but I am supporting of the project.
I think I agree with you on that.
Madam Chair, I'd like to point out, we're not subdividing the lot, though.
No.
So
We can't. I know, we
So there's
can't.
there's only the 2 items that we're providing the variance for, right? One is the accessory structure being larger, and then the second curb cut
Right.
due to the layout of the land that we can't do. So we're not.
No, I know, I understand that. It has to be a 2.5 acre lot, but typically in circumstances where you have 2 dwellings, there is a subdivision aspect, but we can't because of this,
Because we're not having a dwelling. I understand. Yep.
yes.
Yeah, I think the piece for me, similar to what Commissioner Biedner and Ellis brought up on the unique circumstances, the wetland is a unique circumstance to me that runs it, so you can't put it closer. And I feel like from what I heard from the applicant too, on the age of the house and the structure, it almost like it's not to connect something new to that 40-year-old home probably isn't the right plan either, and given the topography, it's limiting. So I feel like those things and moving the house further north on the land help me on kind of what those limitations and unique circumstances are.
I'd say, yeah, the wetland for me is the only unique circumstance that I've found. And I do think it's probably enough to justify the 2 curb cuts and then make sense on why they can't expand the existing structure. And so for that reason, the only thing they could do was to build a new structure, and the only place they could build it was north. So then the question is, are we going to force them to essentially cut in half their prior structure or not? And I don't think that makes, just from a reasonability sense, any sense. So I'll approve it as well.
I'm still struggling a little bit with the structure being supposedly sound, but then hearing that it's falling down the hill. So if it's, I guess that's kind of what I understood from you, that if it's going to be at risk and it's it's near the road and you're going to be, and people could be seeing it, or if it's potentially dangerous, why would you want to use a structure that isn't necessarily sound if it's in bad shape and falling down the hill as you stated?
You can address the podium. Yep.
Yeah.
You've got to come to the podium though. Thank you.
Yeah, I probably exaggerated a little bit, but obviously it is not in the shape where you could really enhance it by any means. It's great, it'd be great for an auxiliary building. That's the perfect thing for it. And my hope, and you guys I think all touched on this, is like, why tear it down, why cut it in half when it can be purposely useful for stuff like that? So.
Okay, so It's in better shape
It's-
than maybe you
It's
anticipated.
good, it's okay shape, right? It's not great, it's not, the bones are pretty good, yeah. It's beat up, it's 40 years old, it's pretty dated.
Okay.
And importantly, you can't expand it because of the footprint and the existing, or because of the way the lot is,
Yeah,
the topography, as you said earlier. That's, the expansion of it to fix it that way is not something that you're able to
you would.
to
and
accomplish.
In all honesty, too, being next to that road, you can't hear yourself talk in your driveway. It's so loud. It's really, really bad.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Are there any other comments from the commission before we move forward on a vote? Okay, seeing none, I'd entertain a motion.
Make a motion to adopt a resolution approving variances from sections 11-6-7 and 11-7-3 to allow a 2,194 square foot accessory structure exceeding the 1,200 square foot maximum aggregate area for detached accessory structures in the rural residential zoning district, and to allow for the installation of a second driveway and curb cut on the property of 12475 Danbury Way.
Second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Reed and seconded by Commissioner Ellis. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. This item is an item that the Planning Commission hears and makes a decision on, acting as the Board of Appeals and Adjustments. This item does not move forward to City Council. There is a 10-day appeals period. Anyone wishing to appeal the decision of the Planning Commission acting as the Board of Appeals and Adjustments this evening may do so by contacting City Hall. With that, that concludes this item this evening. We will move on to our next public hearing item, which is a request by Greg Fox for a lot division and a variance to allow for a 0-foot yard setback and to allow for the creation of a parcel without frontage along a public right-of-way. I will turn it over to Anthony.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. We will be moving on to the complete opposite side of the city for this request. There's, as you said, two components to this: a subdivision of the agricultural parcel in order to construct a new barn on the site. Typically, agricultural splits do not need city approval if they meet all of the requirements of the city code. In this case, the applicant is proposing to split the property in a way that would require variance approval related to the lot not having a frontage on the right-of-way, and then also a variance from the setback standard to allow for the parcel boundary to bisect an existing structure for that. I will go through the proposal to explain that in a little more detail, but I would note that what the applicant is proposing is unusual, but not unheard of, particularly in the eastern part of the city. So the subject parcel is located on Emory Avenue at 15391. This is in the southeastern agricultural portion of the city. You can see to the north here, County Road 42, further west, Highway 52, and then south here is County Road 46. On the far right-hand side of the screen here, Fisher Avenue is the eastern boundary of the city. The applicant is proposing to build a new agricultural structure. The type of agriculture is hog farming. This would require the building to have a connection between an existing structure and the new structure. The applicant is present, so when we open the public hearing, I would certainly defer to them on the logistics and requirements for that. But it is staff's understanding that there are biosecurity requirements that are needed to basically keep the animals quarantined within their structures. So this is the proposed parcel being created here in red. You can see that it is bisecting this existing building. It does provide for appropriate setbacks on the north side here, the east and south, and clearly the west here. The minimum lot area in the agricultural zoning district is 2.5 acres. The proposed lot would be 4.59 acres. The minimum lot width is 300 feet. On its narrowest side, the proposed parcel would be 400 feet. As I said, it does meet the setback requirements, but for where it bisects that existing building with 82 feet and 46.3 feet at those other two relevant locations here. Because the applicant is working with their son to help move this project along, and I don't want to get too far into it, I'll let them explain that in a little bit more detail. It is staff's understanding that they are subdividing this property as is required by a financing agency for the new barn project. So here's a couple examples of other parcels in the city where you see a parcel kind of floating in there, not touching any public right-of-way. This is Mosaic down on Pine Bend Trail along the Mississippi River. You can see that building there is on its own parcel. I would assume it was probably for a similar reason, where when Mosaic, or was CF Industries at the time that was built, wanted to build that and need special financing, they probably had the bank say, well, it needs to be on its own parcel, rather than tying all the other parcels up with that lending situation. Here at Flint Hills Pine Bend Refinery, you can see a parcel boundary bisecting a structure. And then here at Sunlight Investments, this is also on Pine Bend Trail, you can see a parcel boundary bisecting and building there as well. So unusual, not something that we see all the time, but not completely unheard of. As Julia said in her presentation, and the Planning Commission, acting as the Board of Appeals and Adjustments, is well aware there are 5 findings that must be made to approve a variance. The first, if the variance request is in harmony with the purposes and intent of the ordinance. This zoning district, the purpose of it is to encourage long-term continuation of agricultural and related uses. The proposed project facilitates the expansion of the existing agricultural use, and staff finds that in harmony with the purposes and intent of the ordinance. The second one, is it consistent with the comprehensive plan? And staff finds that it is. The site is designated for agricultural uses. The applicant is not proposing to change that. The third one, the applicant, staff finds, is proposing to use it in a reasonable manner. It is reasonable to consider and propose a barn in an agricultural use. Staff finds that there are unique circumstances that aren't created by the landowner. These are related to the certain requirements of the type of agriculture that is done on that site, from the MPCA that regulates the farms like this to the financing mechanisms used to fund the new building. Also, based on the location of where the new building will be, it isn't feasible to expect the parcel boundary to extend all the way to the front of the site. There are existing structures there, which we can see on this side. So if they need to connect to this building, it isn't feasible to put it up here where it can have frontage on the right-of-way. So the existing layout of the buildings is a unique constraint that necessitates the need for a variance. And then the last finding that must be made is that the variance doesn't change the essential character, and I think the commission can all agree that a proposed additional barn within a farm is definitely in keeping with that essential character. So staff is recommending approval based on the findings made and presented before you, as well as the following considerations here, that the impact of approving the variance is minimal given the agricultural use of the property. If it was going to be changed in any way, it would likely be with redevelopment or development of the other area. So the fact that there is a parcel kind of floating in the middle of the other parcel, it would get replatted into something else if it was ever going to change out of ag. No additional dwelling units would be permitted. The maximum density in the ag district is 1 house per 40 acres. There is already homestead on the site, and the site itself is just under 40 acres. There wouldn't be a room for another dwelling unit. Also, the site, as I said, if it was ever to be redeveloped, it would have to be replatted, and the proposed plat would not exist any further. But most importantly, the character of the vicinity will be maintained and strengthened. It is an agricultural area. These are the types of projects that we would expect to see in this area to occur. It just so happens that they're requesting some variances from the code to make that happen. The part of the city's comprehensive plan reflects on the agricultural history of the city and the value of the existing agricultural uses that are in place. So for those reasons, staff is recommending approval. There are a couple of actions that would be needed. The first action would be a resolution approving the variance. This would be the Planning Commission acting as the Board of Appeals and Adjustments. And then also a motion to recommend the City Council approve that subdivision, which would be allowed with the approval of a variance. So with that being said, I'm happy to take any questions. And as I said, the applicant is here who can talk a little bit more in detail about the project and the specific requirements that they're dealing with as they move forward with, or move through their process.
Thank you, Anthony. I just want to start by saying I appreciate you including some of the other examples of where we've had similar occurrences like this, where either we've had a floating property out there or have property lines going through some of the buildings. So that is very helpful to see other instances of where we've had similar situations. I did have a question. I read something about the buildings had to be connected, and so I was curious, and this might be more for the applicant, but is the new building going to be connected to?
Yeah, so.
Like this drawing
Yeah.
shows it, the other one didn't really show
Yeah,
it.
Madam Chair, not to speak over you, this is a kind of a rough sketch when I was meeting with the applicants about this, but it does need a sort of hallway or corridor that
Okay.
allows them to move between the two buildings. There's certain requirements for showers and the change of clothing between, as they move from one space to the next as well.
Okay, so there will be a connection
Yeah.
there, it just didn't show on the other
Right.
one. Okay. Are there other questions or comments from the commission?
Yeah, Anthony, the only reason this subdivision is being asked for is because the lender requires it, is that correct?
That's my understanding, that for them to get financing, and again, I would defer to the applicant.
Understood.
But my understanding would be that the owner of the property, it would be his son who is looking to make this expansion on that site and separate ownership from the overall farm.
Okay. Otherwise, the city would not be requiring this, right? They could build this building here, and they would just go through the, the building permit process.
So for egg structure, or for egg subdivisions, so just using these section lines and things, if someone were to come through and say, a farmer would split this in half, or split 80 acres off here, they could go to the county and just split it. But because it's kind of unique and doesn't necessarily meet the code, a lot of times the county will say, hey, we're getting this request, is this in conformance with your zoning requirements? Mostly for lot size, especially in the ag area, and we just kind of confirm that it is, and then they just do the split. But in this case, it does require some city action.
But if they weren't looking to split it, they were just looking to add this building, they'd be able to just do that, right?
Correct, they would
Now,
just.
there's a financing element and some other things at play here. The son is gonna
Right.
own this building or run this part.
Yeah.
So there's some other things at play, but if they just wanted to build the building,
It would just be a building permit.
it would just be a building permit and
Yep.
be good. Okay.
And if it were just a cold storage pole barn, they wouldn't even need a building permit. The state statute allows for those to be constructed without a building permit.
Okay.
But typically what we're seeing in egg structures, there's a plumbing component, electrical, things like that. Those do require building permits. But if it's just a shed to park a tractor in, they can just build those.
Right. But this one probably would
This would
require a
need a
building
building
permit, but
permit,
but it wouldn't require a variance or any approvals from commission or council. Okay. Other comments or questions?
Yeah, Anthony, if we could go back a picture or two on the north end of the lot, is that a road there? Or is that, I'm just wondering,
It's a field road.
it's a field road, so it's not, so if we're talking about access to a road,
Not a right.
that doesn't count.
It's, nope, that doesn't count.
Okay. Yeah, because that was,
Someday, that would probably be
but
a road.
but at this point, so we couldn't ask them why they don't put the proposed building on the north side of the existing building and just slide everything up, because that wouldn't fix the problem anyway.
Functionally, it would still be the same, same issue. And I didn't touch on it, but they are providing an access easement to the parcel. The Planning Commission has approved plats with a variance to allow for parcels to only be accessed through an access easement. In the northwestern portion of the city, near where the previous item was. That plat had a couple parcels that would only be served by an internal driveway and an access easement. So this is a similar situation there.
Other questions or comments? Okay, thank you, Anthony. This item is a public hearing item, so at this time, we will open up the public hearing. Anyone in the audience who would like to speak may do so at this time, coming to the podium, stating your name and address for the record.
Kevin Fox, 15391 Emory Avenue, East Rosemount. I'm a fifth-generation farmer, and on my family century family farm, to remain viable, I need to update, remodel, and add on to our existing hog facility. This building would follow NPCA guidelines and county and state standards. So,
Can you just speak to a little bit about the reasoning that you're looking to create the lot? We've heard that it's maybe finance-driven.
yes, my dad owns the property. The goal will be to buy the property from him someday, but
Okay,
to get started, the existing building is 2012. That would still be included in this,
okay,
and they're still, it's still in very good shape. The hallway would provide a biosecure way to enter the building, so we're not passing on any bugs or anything, and yeah, I think.
okay. So this is, the reason for doing the lot, if I can just summarize, but correct me if I'm wrong on any of it, would be for you to then buy that and start your business of it, and then get the financing to provide for that lot and building.
Yeah, that would be the main thing,
Okay.
just to get started. I mean, I've been in the family farm since I was born, so be a way to get in
Okay,
officially.
okay. Does anyone have any questions for the applicant?
No.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other comments or questions from the commission?
No, unlike maybe the last variance request that I had, maybe a little more questions about, I feel like this is a great use of the space and is just, it's a really fantastic addition to keep moving Rosemont forward.
And thanks for being a 5-generation farmer.
Yeah.
Yes. I will, Commissioner Reed reminded me I did not close the public hearing. So let me back up for a minute. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak on this item this evening? Seeing none, I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Kenninger, seconded by Commissioner Reed. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Public hearing is now closed. Okay.
You gotta go back and sit down.
Yeah, no.
No, we,
Well, I think it's well said.
Yeah.
great comment,
Well
great
said.
comments as part of public hearing,
I
yes.
agree.
Very-
Madam Chair,
very well
it
said.
is good to note and see how the succession planning and how these farms are passed on from generation to generation. It's not something I certainly come in contact with in a lot of my day-to-day.
Yeah, it is great, and great to see them wanting to invest and expand and continue and have new generations of farmers. It is a big part of Rosemont, and so it's great to see that.
I see all 5 criteria being met, so I have no issues with it.
Agreed.
Okay. Well, with that, we will move forward. I'd entertain a motion.
Get up to it now.
It's on the screen.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. All right, I don't need my computer. All right, motion to adopt a resolution approving a variance from sections 11.25 and 11.34 to allow for a 0-foot yard setback and to allow for the creation of a parcel without frontage along a public right-of-way. And then.
We'll move on that one first.
Yep.
Second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Bugai and seconded by Commissioner Biedner. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Before we move on to the next one, I just want to share that that motion was approved tonight as the Public Planning Commission acting as the Board of Appeals and Adjustments. Our decision here this evening is final on that item. It will not move forward to City Council, but there is a 10-day appeal period. Anyone wishing to appeal our decision may do so by contacting City Hall within the next 10 days. Now we will move forward to the next one.
I'll make a motion to recommend the city council approve the subdivision to create a 4.59 acre parcel within the larger existing parcel located at 15391 Emery Avenue, subject to conditions 1 and 2 listed.
Second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Bugai, seconded by Commissioner Biedner. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. That item will move forward to City Council for their approval on February 17th, tentatively on February 17th. That concludes our public hearing section this evening of our meeting. Sorry, I thought I'd get ahead and sign the variance real time here. So then, moving forward, we have new business. Any new business?
There's no new business.
Okay. Discussion items this evening. I just wanted to take a quick minute to share. Last Friday, I was able to attend, and Commissioner Reed also attended the Northwind event on Friday, and that was a great event. I learned a lot, even though we saw that project come forward. I learned a great deal more about the Minnesota Aerospace Complex that they are building. It is an amazing facility. I am very excited for our city to have that coming here. If I recall correctly, this will be the third in the country.
That sounds right.
And I was not aware of the local, state, and federal government involvement, the public and private entities coming together. It was great to hear UMore. We hear about UMore and U of M, and they have the land, but U of M has even a greater involvement in it, more than the land. They're doing an educational aspect with it. They're going to have a building out there that they're going to have classes out of. So that just an amazing, I think it's going to be an amazing complex, and I sure hope that once it's built, the Planning Commission can go tour it after all of our involvement in it. It would be great to see it. So that was a great event held last Friday morning. We had representatives from the University of Minnesota. We had representatives from Northwind. We had representatives from our county commissioners, city council, and the Department of Defense had somebody there, and we had Representative Betty McCullum and Senator Amy Klobuchar present with that event. So a very well-attended event. And then in the afternoon, Omni Winery kicked off their event center and opened up their event center and at their property. They had a great venue. It's an amazing location. The building is very, very nice. And they commented on the great community support, and it was great to hear the community support for their existing business, and that really was one of the drivers in them taking on this new opportunity and building this event venue center for the city, is that they felt that there was great community support for their existing business and felt like that would transfer to this new facility. It's a great, exciting addition to our community, so it was great to be able to go out and see that. I know they have a variety of events throughout the next couple months where you can go see that venue, and so I encourage everyone to go tour it. It looks great. Any other discussion from the commissioners? Okay, with that, I will call our meeting. Oh, wait, one more thing. I almost forgot about our next upcoming meetings. We have our next meeting February 24th, and Mike will not be able to attend. Commissioner Reed, is anyone else unable to attend February 24th? We're all good? Okay.
Good.
And then we've got March 16th. I call that one out. That is different than a Tuesday. That is a Monday because we altered it because of the spring break. So that is a Monday, the week prior to our normal meeting. Commissioner Ellis, I know Mondays are hard for you.
I think this one should be okay.
Okay.
Sorry, which date was that?
March 16th.
March 16th. Good.
Okay. And then back to our regular Tuesday schedule with April 28th. So just a reminder, you've got those in your calendar, and if you have any conflicts, to let Liz know so we ensure we have a quorum. Okay. With that, I will say meeting adjourned.